Welcome everybody to this episode of Relic News. This week I'll be featuring Digger Charlie from the Stealth Diggers.
And hello, my name is Digger Charlie.
So, how did it all begin for Digger Charlie? It seems that he's spent over the last decade exploring the woods.
To going out, hiking, looking, searching, exploring, and revisiting the history of the area that I had been reading about for so long.
And he started donating all of his finds to the town museum and the local historical societies.
We were out looking for bottle dumps and having absolutely no luck for weeks, and came across a couple of guys out metal detecting in a cellar hole, and it just had never had dawned to us to, look just in normal places around these cellar holes. We were always looking for dump spots.
Who we still don't know who they were, have no idea what they started, or at least contributed to.
Detecting nationwide has never been the same since.
Think of the timing. If we had not gone out that day and ran into those guys, we may never have taken the path we had taken.
Probably not.
So it was literally by chance that we had just happened to come across two guys out in the woods metal detecting, and within 3 days we all had gear.
How did the Stealth Diggers come together?
Interestingly enough, none of it has been planned. It's not like I woke up one day and said, this is what I want to do. But with that, myself and my friend John, who's Thunder Chief, had always wanted to just document what we do, because we've always, been explorers and gone out on adventures. So that was it. That one spring, I'd got a new iPhone 4S, so it was a decent camera. I said, I'm just going to start filming things. Well, that next spring, I decided I'm going to start at episode number 1, and I'm just going to film every time I go out. Well, the evolution over the course of that first year was just remarkable beyond anything we could have possibly thought of, where it was myself and Thunder Chief, and then we picked up Faceless George, and then we met Just Bob, J-Mo, Keebler, and it was like every single month we picked up a new best friend.
Charlie's favorite find would have to be a Continental Navy button.
His name was Daniel Adams. He died in 1813. And if you're wondering why I'm here at his gravestone, stay tuned. This is a great story. So let me tell you a story about how I ended up at the gravesite of Daniel Adams. In particular, I went back to the home site where I found my George Washington cufflinks. And that's been one of my best finds ever for the historical context. I'm backing up, and there's an older woman standing on the side of the road, waving me over, saying, "You can turn around in here, you can turn around in here." "Thanks, lady." So I get out of the vehicle, we start talking, but she asked me, "Can you tell me what this is in my front yard?" "That's a cellar hole." Now, we know the family name that lived in that part of town, but we had not been able to locate their home sites because they were all long gone before they made the 1858 map. Now, keep in mind, with what Keebler said is so very often true, that you have your original settler. This guy, he had a lot of kids. When you read your town history books, a lot of times, it obviously doesn't tell you where they lived exactly, and the landscape has changed a lot in the 200 plus years. It'll say that so-and-so, this son, resided on the property of...
Holy crap. You are not going to believe this. Unbelievable. I'm 150 feet away from the cellar hole in a field that was opened up 30 years ago. Damn.
Oh, ho, ho.
What did I tell you? This guy was a Revolutionary vet? Continental Navy.
Yep, there it is.
Oh, I'm getting chills.
Yep.
Dude, that's a home site over there.
Bingo. Continental Navy culture. Not only is it a Continental Navy button, it's a lieutenant's button. Lieutenant Daniel Adams. You just witnessed me dig my favorite find ever. Daniel Adams. He was in Captain Stone's company under General Stark. General Stark, you know what he said? Live free or die. That's right.
When I asked him what his most memorable hunt was.
Now, what would you say your most memorable hunt has been?
Well, one that stands out from this summer was with myself, Keebler, and Trooper Bry. And if anybody had caught this particular hunt, which we made into an episode, it's when Keebler, of all people, dug...
That's the story. You can see right here, this wall's built way up to keep this level to it. And for reenactment's purposes, I stood these rocks up the way they were when I came upon them. And of course, it rang up really nice. And I was like, well, I'm thinking maybe well, so I moved the things. I flip. That's as far as I'm going. I'm not going to do it.
Well, get your machine. Swing over. I want to see what it...
That magic number. Well, I've already come down to it. I'll show you.
No way.
Whoa.
We going for it?
It's a 5-gallon pail or bucket buried with plastic wrapped around it. This is odd.
It's sealed.
Is it heavy?
Look for a name or something.
You gotta be kidding me.
There's another 5-gallon pail.
No, there. Oh my God, there is.
And it's inside a plastic bag. Whatever it is, inside your pail. Somebody really didn't want this to...
Wow. It's alive but not dead.
How about some breath savers?
2 5-gallon buckets full of rations, MREs.
What? Are you kidding me?
Somebody's buried their survival kit out here.
Let me see. And not one book of matches, no firearms, nothing to catch fish with, no first aid, right? No booze, no tobacco,
No salt.
And basically the guy loaded it with chocolate, crackers, Vienna sausages, no toilet paper, and that's about it. So it was a memorable day, but all around it's a memorable episode because we gave these to J-Mo and he and his kid ate them all. So after sitting in the ground for 15 years.
And he was okay?
Yeah, they can eat anything, literally, or drink anything.
Now we'll be featuring Ed Thibodeau from New Brunswick, Canada. Ed was advised by his doctor that he was prone of having a stroke. He needed to get out and get some exercise. So he decided to purchase a metal detector and gets out every chance he gets. Ed has owned 9 metal detectors this year. His first 7 metal detectors were bounty hunters. Then he purchased the Micron detector, and then finally his AT Pro International. A few months into metal detecting, he had found the find that got him hooked. This was a 1913 50-cent piece. Ed's favorite relic was found at a World War II bunker site. He had found a St. John's Railway Company button. This button dates between 1897 and 1917. When I asked Ed what his most memorable hunt was, it was the day that he took along his granddaughter. When I asked Ed his favorite thing about the hobby is, he says that it's all about the friends that he has made in the community. He states that he has made more friends this year in the community than he has his whole entire life. Now I'll be featuring Tom Holliday. Some of you may know him from the Facebook group Michigan Metal Detecting. Now I asked Tom how he got started in metal detecting, and here he is.
Hello, my name is Tom Holliday. I'm from Canton, Michigan, and I've been detecting for about 2.5 years.
What got you started? What got you started in the hobby? Like, how did you think of buying a metal detector?
I was always the black sheep of the family. I'm a musician, so none of the other family members were musicians. They all had their own thing going. And my two brothers, Doug and Tim, who are my mentors in metal detecting, they're probably the best out that I've ever seen. They were always out doing metal detecting. That was it. I didn't care if I found anything. I wanted to go out and do something with my brothers.
Somebody had contacted me telling me that I need to hear on how many silver coins you found this year.
342. You know, even the wheat pennies, I dug over 1,100 wheats this year, and I gave them to a club that I belong to here locally, Michigan Treasure Hunters, for their seated hunts. And I just brought the whole big bag and said, here you go, you know. And
now, I understand you have a group on Facebook. You want to tell me a little bit about the group and how you started that?
Man. I'm so glad you asked about that. I'm administrator for Michigan Metal Detecting, okay? And it isn't just Michigan people. We have out-of-staters as well. And I think a couple from England. But it's a very close-knit family group. And the members are absolutely the best people that I could possibly imagine. I started, I took over this group from Jeremy Robbins, who started this group, and he PM'd me if I would be interested in taking over the group. To my surprise, kindness is contagious, okay? And it's proven over and over again in my group the last couple of months, especially. There's been dozens and dozens of them that have donated their own finds or donated pieces of equipment to other members that are in need. I came up with the idea of a GoFundMe account and take the donations, buy some detectors, and give them to the people accordingly who need them. And that's what we're doing right now. And I think right now I'm up to $540 in the GoFundMe account, and it's only been going for 4 days. Now, if that doesn't tell you the kindness of people, because none of that money in that account is from me. That's from members giving to other members. And you don't see that in other groups. If there's any members out there that have used or maybe metal detectors or pinpointers or equipment that they no longer use or just sitting in a closet, trust me, I can find a very good home for them. And you can PM me at any time, and we can work out arrangements. I can work out shipping. I can do whatever I have to do. Thank you.
Now, what was his most memorable hunt? I know it's hard. I know it's a tough one, but is there one that stands out to you? Is it the one that got you hooked onto the hobby? Is it your first?
I would have to say my most memorable dig was my very first year metal detecting. The reason they rented a metal detector, because he dug a time capsule in his yard, okay, in an old like tackle box, and they were looking for it, probably using a bounty hunter or something, and they never found it. And I told them, I says, well, I feel pretty confident about my machine that as long as it's not like 3 feet deep, I'll probably find it. Found it. Buried it back up, stuck a stick in it, so the kids can come and dig it up with their with his grandkids. About 3 feet from that, I got a real high signal, like 3-4 inches, and I dug down, and I knew nothing about coins. I mean, I didn't know anything. I was constantly calling my brothers. What did I just find? What is this? Well, I pull a silver out of the ground, and it's got a woman bust on it with a date of 1829. And so I called my brother. I'm like, what is this thing? It says 1 dime on the back, or it says 10 on the back. It doesn't say 1 dime. It just says 10. It's got an eagle. What is it? He goes, you just found a cat bust dime?
Now, what was his most memorable find?
Oh, I know what my favorite find was. It wasn't even a coin. It's an 1874 U.S. officer eagle scabbard plate from the Indian War.
Okay, so what's your dig tip, Charlie?
Well, as my dig tip would be, it would follow suit with my outlook on this hobby. It's not about the finds, it's about the friends, it's about the good times. And I would just say to people, whether you're new at the hobby or you've been in it a long time, just be good to each other. Share what you've learned. Share what you know with other people, because when it comes down to it, that's all that matters in the end. Well, because as we all know, there's too much bad stuff going on in this hobby. A lot of people aren't good to each other, and that ain't cool. So, bottom line, just be good to each other.
Now I'll be featuring Daryl. Some of you may know him as Cashmole on YouTube. Back in 1990, he was interested in scuba diving. He had even dove for shipwrecks around the Manitoulin Island. Back in 2014, he came across Mel Fisher's large Spanish ship Discovery, and soon after, he purchased a metal detector. When I asked him what his most memorable hunt was, it was the day he had found his first silver coin. It was a 1931 Canadian dime. Now, on the same day is when he had first met metal for detecting. Now, when you ask him what his favorite find is, he would tell you it was his old school quarter of 1919. Here's a clip from his video.
Find a silver quarter. Old school one, man. And this is my very first old school quarter. I got dimes, I got fish scales. Never got a quarter. 1919. And it's an amazing, oh God, look at the shape it's in, man.
Now I'll be featuring Howard Hewitt. I had the opportunity to speak with Howard, and I was amazed to find out how it all began. Here he is to explain.
Literally, I was in diapers. If I have it right, I was more likely between 2.5 years of age. I was at my aunt's house, and it so happens that both my mother and my grandmother was there that day, along with one of my mother's sisters, my Aunt Joan, I believe. As I'm digging, and just out of curiosity, I happened to catch this pretty red stone. Now, of course, later in life, I had concluded that what I was looking at, realizing what it was some of the Czechoslovakian hand-cut stones that were imported to all of the jewelry manufacturers in the Providence, Taunton area during the Victorian era. I found a whole fistful of these beautiful hand-cut glass stones. I remember waddling up the stairs with a full diaper, no yet, with a fistful of those stones. And I walked up to my mother, and I said, Mom, look what I got. And I held out the stones, and I remember dropping one on the floor, and they chased after that. And I said, oh my, Joan, look at those. Those are pretty, you know. And I heard how excited they all were. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, this is really cool. You know, and I'm like, why is everybody so excited? You know, it's just, you know, they get it, you know, because I thought they were cool too. You know, that was the very infancy of my treasure hunt. Now, following that, I was probably between 5 or 6, I think. Regardless, I happened to be out there, and I happened to see a round, flat disc of a coin laying on the subsurface of the ground. And when I first looked at it, you know, I didn't see any immediate details. I just saw that it was a round, flat disc, and I thought I was just curious. So, of course, as young as I was, I picked it up and I started rubbing it with my fingers, and I happened to see the initial letters of USA. And I turned it over on the back, and I saw all of these other straight lines. So I just stuffed it in my pocket. I'm just a little kid, you know, what did I know? Years later, maybe I was 8, maybe 10 years old, and my grandfather had introduced me to the coin red book. And I'm flipping through the book, and I happened to see the coin to realize this was an extremely rare minted coin called the bar cent. And the last one that sold at Sotheby's in 1972, 73, sold for over $10,500. Now, what happened to that coin, I have no idea. My mother probably picked it up when she was doing laundry, doing my clothes and laundry, and she probably just threw it into a jar with all the rest of the pennies and changes she had, having no idea where it went.
So how old were you when you first got your metal detector, and how did you hear about metal detecting?
Okay, if I'm right, it was my brother George who came home from school one day, having purchased Treasure Found, one of the early editions of Treasure Found. And this was in 1974, 1975. Okay? By 1975, by late of 75, early of 76, on the bicentennial year, my brother George and I saved our money to get a Radio Shack metal detector from Kmart, from Route 44 in Rainham, Mass, for $43.35 tax. I just don't remember how much it cost, but we did step up to the plate. By 1982, 1983, I got the Garrett ADS-3.
What machine do you use today?
I use the Garrett AT Gold.
Your whole entire life, what would you say that your favorite find is?
That's the tough one. Okay, I'd say that one of the more significant finds that I've made that has historical provenance is a coin silver spoon commissioned for none other than Edmund Andrews, son of John Andrews, who was a veteran of the King Philip War here in the southern New England area during the mid-late 17th century. If you're familiar with the King Philip War, you know that took place between 1675 on through to 1676, if I had that right. What I found was a coin silver spoon that was commissioned for Edmund, his son. It's a baby spoon, and it's initialed with the maker by the name of Charles Whiting from Hartford, Connecticut, between 1742 and 1753. And the teething marks when he bit into the spoon is still there.
Now, I had asked him, what was his most memorable hunt?
Well, this one I really can't forget. The first time that I found a Morgan silver dollar. right at that tree, immediately to the right, heading north, about 10 feet from that tree, after having already recovered like 5 or 6 crushed Pepsi cans. I got another target that sounded just like it. And I'm thinking, oh, God. Oh, man. And I'm actually thinking of, like, a Barbara $50. Howard could, come on, bite your lip, open the ground, right? No, I did. I got down on one knee, I opened up the ground, and a big plug about 8 or 10 inches in diameter, because I knew it was going to be a big target. This sounded like a manhole cover. So I swung the coil over the dirt pile and over the sod, nothing. I'm like, oh, great, here we go. Swung the coil over the hole, and they're going crazy. I'm like, all right, I got to be done with this. Now, if it's a crushed Pepsi can, I'll find it in 2 minutes flat, right? But if it wasn't a Pepsi can, what was it? So I swung the coil over the dirt, it sounded off. I knew just where it was. I took my hand and grabbed a fistful of dirt, pulled it right out. I swung the coil over the pile, nothing. And I got my hand clutched into a tight clump of dirt like this. I'm thinking, okay. So I swung my hand over the coil and it went off again. And I opened up my hand and I broke that clump of dirt with my other middle finger. And I looked, and the first thing I saw was that flying eagle on the back of an 1884 Morgan silver dollar and EF30. I went literally blind. I don't even remember getting up and running all the way down the street, roughly about a half a mile away to the nearest payphone, so that I could call my brother on the phone. And I'm screaming over the phone to tell my brother what I found. He said, "You're kidding! Go back." He said, "There's probably more." He said, "It might be a pocket spill, right?" He's freaking out. So we're talking about this over the phone like good 5 or 6 minutes. So finally it hit me on the head to realize, Howard, where's your machine? Yeah. I left a $350 machine laying out there in broad daylight in the middle of the park for about 10 minutes before I could get back.
Oh my God. Okay.
I ran all the way back here like a panting dog, and to see my machine just sitting there and all the kids and all the husband and wives all playing in the swing set like nothing's going on. You go to Stealth Diggers and you talk to Charlie. He was the one that got the video footage of me making that recovery of a 1721 Spanish silver pistarine. I told everyone and that group that day, and I have 2 valid witnesses who validated this on camera while Charlie was recording it.
Yeah, so now we're off to another permission that Howard got. I have no idea.
All right,
what
you didn't say?
You didn't say. Before you rattle that off, what's going on with your permission here, Howard?
Oh, well, actually, my family ancestry had lived here in this house that was once here.
Really?
The original house that was here was built around about 1785 by the Myrick's brothers. And the Haskins lived here after them.
That I called out the recovery of this coin 3.5 hours before we even got there.
Well, we go up, clean up Bear Can Alley, and no lie, Howard walks up right behind us, stands up, and has this look on his face.
Howard's freaking out here.
No.
Yeah. All right, let's see. What was the signal, Howard? It was reading it like an 82 solid, okay? Look how thin it is. In the hole. Don't touch it, okay? But just look how thin it is.
Holy crap.
It's a real.
You bastard.
It's a real.
It's a real?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I touch it?
Yeah. All right, I got this.
Oh, and it's
And it's
oh my
old,
God.
just like you were talking about.
Oh, dude,
Is that a
so
4
spooky.
or a 2? That's a 2.
Oh, God.
What year is it? It's a Pistarine.
Oh, God, it was more than one.
Me too.
I don't believe it. Oh, God. All right, hold on. Guys, somebody get this on camera.
You got a date, Craig?
It's a 2 real, and the date is on the other side. 1721.
No way! Come on!
God!
I can't believe I passed that up as a can.
I just dug 8 cans.
He gave me a heart attack, I swear to God. It wasn't just
Did you invite him?
2 hours ago.
I didn't write him.
It's his permission, but who invited him?
We could have left him. And you know what he said earlier was, you know, he got that cord. Remember he got that twine from that thing?
Yeah.
He goes, imagine, come here. Do you remember earlier we were at that parsonage?
Yeah.
And you got a piece of string.
Yeah, I know.
And then you
I
said,
just pointed that out.
Then you said, what would it be like if I found a whole real to string it on? And what did you find?
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. Because that's
First thing I'm going to do when I get
just
out of
pointed
here, punch him right in the mouth.
Well, I almost punched him earlier.
That's okay, baby. I can take
I'm
it.
going to kiss.
Well, that wraps it up for this week's episode of Relic News, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.